Get my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most popular homesteading channel on the internet that has nothing whatsoever to do with homesteading. Homesteading off the grid. I hope I have enough daylight left to tell you a creepy story for yet another October night. Since we're racing daylight, I'm going to go ahead and get to it. I hope you've been enjoying this. It's been nightly. This is the first time I made daily videos in many, many months. So I appreciate you making it worth it by coming here and watching them. We're going to read again from True Hauntings, real stories of people's personal experiences with aliens, cryptids, UFOs, supernatural, paranormal, etc. Volume 4. So these stories are submitted from our viewers. If you have a story that you would like to submit to be shared on our channel and printed in an upcoming volume of True Hauntings, you can send them to the channel. The email address is crazylake@mail.com. Make sure to give us your permission to use your story. Crazylake@mail.com. And you're probably thinking, yeah, crazy, that's for sure. Your toboggan's on inside out. Yeah, just a little bit of history on that. If you've been here for many, many years, you know I used to make videos all the time with my hat inside out and the tag showing. And that added to the insane persona that certain characters I portrayed on the channel years ago exhumed. The reason behind it, how we got started. Listen, I'm going to tell you, I saw a dump truck the other day. I was driving behind this dump truck, and he had words on the back of the truck that really summed it all up. It said, "Fueled by haters." Social media, as Lady Gaga once said, is like the gutter of the internet. It's the only industry I'm aware of that I've been in sales, I've been in business my entire adult life. It's the only business where the more that your customers, in this case it would be viewers, hate you, the more successful you're going to be. And that's another reason why. We just don't get the views we used to get. I don't care, because we're killing it on Facebook. We're killing it on other social media platforms where I don't have to deal with that because they have better filters for the trolls and I get to create content. Like, I love what I'm doing here with these scary stories. I'd rather make a video about something I enjoy and only get a couple thousand views than do something I don't enjoy and get a couple 100,000 or a couple million. Once upon a time I needed that, but I don't need that now because we're so established. We're getting tens of millions of views a month and across all our different social media platforms we're on, so it's not necessary. But the toboggan, and there's a point to this long-winded diatribe. There was one day when I'd gone running. It was winter. It was probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I had worn this running to keep my ears warm. Well, I had to get out and make a video also, and there was snow everywhere, but this was the only toboggan I had at the time. And it was all wet with sweat, so I turned it inside out, so at least the outer part would be dry so it wouldn't feel gross. And man, the number of people who lost their shit watching that video because my hat was inside out, calling me stupid, just everything. But this is how social media works. The more of that crap you get, the more money you make. The more interactions, and it gets you spiraling up in the algorithm, and so they feature your videos more. So like the dump truck said, fueled by haters. So I thought, man, people get so bent out of shape because I'm wearing that thing inside out. I'm never going to wear it right side in. It has nothing to do with the fact that it has a brand name on it. I don't care about that. So whatever. My gosh, should have brought up some coffee to sip on while I'm telling my story. I should have brought up some of my well-seasoned red oak that we've just started burning. It's been a warm year, usually burning in the wood stove by the end of September, but this year is well into October before we started burning. So people lose their shit over the simple things, and it's really, I'm going to get to the story after I say this last thing. It's really sad that we all have something that fits within our hand that we carry around in our pockets, that I'm actually making a video on right now that I'll use the same machine to go upload and put it on the World Wide Web so everybody can see these stories. through this gadget, I'm talking about my smartphone. Maybe you have a Galaxy, but same difference. We can access all known information since the dawn of time. And the majority of the people use this technology to argue with and insult strangers on the internet, on social media, in the comment sections. Dumbfounds me. Just dumbfounds me. All right. Now, as my beautiful bride dearly, aka Giggly Girl, would say, oh, there I am. On with the story. So tonight's story, it's called The Haunted Pizzeria. This one was submitted anonymously. So folks, if you're like an educated professional and you're afraid that it might affect your career if the word of your story got out, you can tell us to read it anonymously and we will. Or if you're very religious, or you belong to a very religious group who would, excommunicate you if you talked about ghosts and stuff that's not in the Bible, keep it anonymous. We'll keep you anonymous, okay? Hello, Mr. Lake. I've only recently started watching your YouTube channel, Homesteading Off the Grid. I found it by reading the first volume of your True Hauntings books. I'm in the middle of reading the second volume now, and I hope there'll be a third and many more to come after that. To help you out and people like me who love reading true ghost stories, I'm going to share with you my experience. And it's being shared from volume 4, so it worked. As much as I would love to see my name in one of your books or any book, I am going to ask you to please keep me anonymous because I don't want to bring any ill feelings to the family of the deceased girl at the center of this story. To my understanding, she was a really nice girl that everyone loved and respected, and as you'll soon find out, the rumors of her haunting the old pizza shop in our small town have been going around for decades, and her family members get really upset when they hear anything about it. I guess that would be hard, losing a loved one, and then having them be the center of the local rumor mill because people think they're a ghost. Mr. Lake, I don't think it. I know it because I have my own experience with it. The story goes back to the late 1970s or early 1980s. This girl was working at the local pizza shop. I won't mention the chain name because I really don't want people to connect the dots here. What I'll say is that it's been 3 different chains, all pizza chains, in that building in my lifetime. I was born in 1983, so this happened just before I was born. So this girl, we'll call her Annie, but that wasn't her real name, was really shy. She was one of those girls that was really pretty but didn't know it, even though anyone else who looked at her could tell. She was 16. Annie was a cook in this pizza shop. Even though she was only 16, she had a thing going on with the manager. His name was Mike, and he was 32. That really was his name. I had no interest in protecting the guilty. Mike was constantly trying to get Annie to be a waitress. He would tell her that people would throw money at her because she was so pretty. Annie was so shy, though, that she just wouldn't do it. She preferred to cook in the kitchen so she wouldn't have to deal with other people aside from her coworkers, many of whom she went to high school with. I guess Annie was kind of naive, and she really fell for this Mike guy, and she crossed that line, if you know what I mean. I guess he was telling her he loved her, and she was the only girl for him, and as soon as she turned 18, he was going to marry her. All that stuff. She was telling him to give her a ring to prove it, and he kept saying he was going to. She said she didn't feel like she could take him seriously unless he gave her a ring. He used their age difference as an excuse not to give her one, but she was relentless. Annie wanted a ring. Well, Annie caught Mike making out, actually a little more than that. I'm just keeping it clean because I don't know how much adult material you want in your books, with one of the waitresses in the dry storage closet one day, and she was heartbroken. She marched straight out of work and went straight home and locked herself in her bedroom and chose to take her own life, as they call it these days on the internet. Up until just a few years back, I would have said she committed suicide, but I guess maybe the new way they want us to say it is not as harsh or something, but it sure as hell doesn't change the facts. A human being who was a beautiful little teenager on the inside and out is no longer with us, no matter how you word it. I know, right? Anyway, not too long after Annie made the choice to off herself, Mike got engaged to the girl Annie had caught him making out with in the dry storage closet. He got her a ring and everything. Turns out he'd gotten her pregnant as well, and that's what sped up his engagement to her. We live in a small southern town, I'll give you that much, and as someone from a similar area, you know how people have the tendency to judge. Yeah. I don't think the town has to be small for that either. The World Wide Web's a pretty big place, and, well, I already told you the story behind this. That was right there is enough to get me judged insane. That among many other things. Well, this pregnant girl didn't like the stares and the whispers she was soon getting. She needed to keep working for as long as she could, though, because she needed the money, so she ended up transferring from the floor to the kitchen, and that's when the ghost of Annie struck for the first time. This pregnant girl was making dough in the big mixer, and all of a sudden, it went berserk and started mixing on high. It caught her hand, but just for a second. She was able to get her hand out of the bowl before she got hurt, but when she pulled her hand out, she realized her engagement ring was missing. Her and Mike and a couple of other cooks, after unplugging the machine that never stopped going crazy until they did, sorted through that giant ball of pizza dough, but they never did find that ring. Mike was convinced she'd taken it off before she started mixing the dough, but she insisted that she hadn't. She said she hadn't taken that ring off her finger since Mike had given it to her. They never did find it. Soon after that girl's baby was born, and she and Mike did get married, by the way, about 4 months before it was born, she and Mike took off and left town. Word was Mike was being investigated for his involvement with another underage girl that was working in the pizzeria, despite being involved with the one he just married. But Mike and his wife taking off didn't end the mystery of the ring, or shall I say rings, because the incident I just described was only the first of many such incidences. Over the years, any girl that worked at that pizzeria, no matter which chain it belonged to at the time, would somehow end up losing her engagement ring while she was on the job. Seriously, it happened so many times throughout the years that when any girl would get interviewed for a job there, the manager interviewing her would tell her not to wear any rings. It actually became a company policy. Mr. Lake, after I graduated from high school, I worked in that pizzeria during the summers while I was home from college. During my last summer working there, I took a dare from one of the girls back at my college. Did you hear that tree knock? Well, there was no missing that one, huh? When we'd get together and tell ghost stories, I'd always tell the tale of the haunted pizzeria from back in my hometown. Well, this one girl had recently broken off an engagement with a guy who had been her high school sweetheart. As is so often the case, she hooked up with the guy, well, lots of them, when she'd gone away to college, and she kicked the old hometown boy to the curb. That loser was so in love with her, he told her to keep the ring he'd gotten her, but she didn't want to have anything more to do with the ring than she did the loser who'd bought it for her. So she gave it to me and dared me to wear it to the haunted pizzeria that summer. I guess the term for guys like that these days among the cool kids is simp. It's a simp. I just call them beta males, losers. Remember this, guys. Repeat after me. I don't chase. I replace. Got a whole generation of young males out there that need to learn that. Simps. Well, I couldn't just wear it flat out because it was against the policies, and I didn't want to get my hand stuck in the dough mixer, even though that wasn't always the way these rings would go missing. A lot of them went missing while a girl would be hand washing the pizza pans in the jumbo sink. Try as they might and look as hard as they could, no one ever found those rings once they went missing, even though the sinks were never drained until a thorough search had been conducted. The drains had pretty good screening systems in them too, yet none of them ever caught a ring. What I did was wear the ring to work, but just before going into the pizzeria, I would take it off and put it in my front pants pocket. Our work pants had one of those little pockets inside the pocket, you know, for keys or whatever, so there was no way that the ring could have just slipped out of my pocket. By the way, that tiny little pocket inside your front pocket, the original purpose for that is for what's left after your paycheck after the taxes come out. I kept that ring in that pocket all summer, until the end, that is. We'd had a big going back to college party for one of the guys working there that summer, and so the next day I was really hungover. I actually sneaked into the dry storage closet to take a nap for like 20 minutes. The same dry storage closet where Annie had caught Mike doing a little more than just making out with the other girl. When I woke up from my nap, I had this strange feeling. I felt like I wasn't alone in that closet, even though I knew I was. And it felt cold in there, and it had actually been a little too warm for comfort when I'd gone in. I quickly thought of the ring in my pocket, and I put my hand in my pocket to pull it out, and it was gone. I went out of the closet and asked the 2 other workers who were there that day if they'd sneaked into the closet and took the ring out of my pocket. They looked at me like they'd seen a ghost, and that's when I remembered that I'd never told any of my coworkers that I had the ring anyway. There's no way they could have known. I felt the flesh on my arm stand up at that moment. This all happened more years ago than I care to think about, but it feels like it was just yesterday in a way. I hope you like this story, and I hope you'll use it in one of your upcoming books. Again, just please don't say my name. I look forward to your next volume of True Hauntings, and I guess I'll watch your YouTube channel a little more. Anonymous. Well, thank you for a wonderful, creepy story about that haunted pizzeria. And it's almost dark, and there's a light fog coming in. The veil is getting very thin, and we clearly heard a tree knock. So I'm done for tonight. I'm getting in a house. Hope you enjoyed this story here at the coolest homesteading channel in the entire world that has nothing to do with homesteading. Hope you're enjoying all of your October nights. See you tomorrow night for more.